Hey everyone, Big Sloss back again with another video. This time it's kind of a more art related video. I've been working on an animation for the past few days and I will release it this weekend on Saturday. But as of right now, I am just here to talk about animation and how animation is kind of hard. I forgot to say this while I was recording the initial audio, but as always, if you like the video, like, comment, or subscribe, and I'd really appreciate it. Anyways, back to previous Big Sloss and the discussion about how animating is hard. It's fun when it's done and you get to see like the final product. It's fun while you're doing it and you can see like the small little changes and you know how it builds up to something greater. But it's also very tedious, very arduous, kind of difficult, but fun. It is a rewarding process. Now, right here, I'm just drawing a bunch of Welcome to Derry related things. So this is like the mouth from episode 2. There's also going to be the pickle monster from episode 2. But I am working on a Welcome to Derry inspired animation. And it's fun. It's pretty much almost done. All I have to do is record some audio, like dialogue. But other than that, it is all done in terms of the artistic side. That's really all I kind of had to talk about, which is not good because this is a long video. But it was kind of the main thing I wanted to talk about. Just very difficult process of animation. You know, I also didn't really think about everything that goes into animation. So, for example, I drew Pennywise over and over and over and over again because he moves. Then I drew his head like separate from his body. That way, when the character is moving, his head is kind of like staying in the same position to look freaky, in a freaky kind of way, I suppose. I've also listened to a bunch of It soundtrack pieces because I wanted to find out which one works the best with the animation. And I also kind of took inspiration from a lot of Meat Canyon videos. Well, definitely his older ones that aren't as intensive in terms of animation. Mainly because it only took me a few days to make this because it's not that extensive of a project. But I also didn't want to overextend myself on my very first animation. Well, my very first animation for myself. I made animation before, but it was always for a class, and I was pretty bad at procrastinating, so they never really turned out very well. But this was good. This was fun. You can see the glowing eyes of Pennywise. Now we're on to the pickle monster. This show is a wild ride. And you can see before I started drawing the pickle monster, I was drawing other things, trying to see what I could come up with, but they were never really working out very well. So I just decided to stick with good old pickle creature. But Welcome to Derry was definitely a bit of an inspiration for my animation, even though most of my animation is a recreation of a nightmare that I had a few years ago where the antagonist was good old Pennywise. And I'm wondering, or I'm inspired to see if I can recreate all of my sleep paralysis nightmares and remake them all in animation. Because I also have a few others One of them isn't really tied to anything like horror related, but there's also one that was inspired by The Evil Dead. One was inspired by Smile. And I would like to see if I can recreate these nightmares of mine in animation. Now, the way that I animated was probably not the most intuitive way to animate something or the smartest way to animate something. The way that I animated my characters was in Procreate, and there is an animation app on iPad specifically called Procreate Dreams, but the UI and the way that it works is so anti-intuitive that it's so much easier to animate on the regular Procreate app than it is to animate on Procreate Dreams. Like I've tried it, I cannot do it. It is just not for me. I would rather animate using Procreate. Which is interesting. You would think the animation specific Procreate Dreams would be easier, but it is not. And so I found it much more enjoyable to animate with Procreate. I'm excited to show you guys. It's 2 minutes and 48 seconds. There are some things that are animated, but I animated them in After Effects. So to save time and to make it a little bit easier. And, you can tell it's an amateur animation, but I still think it does look really good, all things considered. Here's little pickle monster. He was way too green at first, so I had to make him actually, pickly. But now the next drawing that I'm doing is all of the Pennywise faces that I used in the animation. So I used this as the base for the Pennywise face, using it as a base to kind of keep it consistent, because I probably could have drawn my own Pennywise face for the animation, but I also like this better, mainly because since it's so detailed, it kind of contrasts against the simplistic style of the animation. But I have a half face. I have a scary face where all of his teeth are coming out. And I have just the generic face. That's kind of the one you saw in the photo beforehand. But then I add another face, which is all cracked and stuff, because in the animation, his head pops like a balloon. So I wanted to bring that into this. So I'm making all of these heads at the same time, and then I saved them individually as PNG files so that I can place them into the animation. Because I animated his body separately, and then I'll popped his head in. And maybe after I release the animation on Saturday, later on I'll make a video about the actual, or showing the actual process of making the animation, which took a long time. It was fun, but that was there was one day yesterday where I was just full on animating 24/7 while also kind of listening to Meat Canyon's more discussion-based videos. And then at the end of the night, I just put everything together in, I use Wondershare. I think that's what it's called, Wondershare. But you can see right now I'm drawing. This is why, the reason it looks like this is because it's the PNG format, so it doesn't have a background. I got rid of the background while I was working on this, but all of these faces are different pieces. So here I am making the bottom mouthpiece, and I erase everything. So I'm making all of the individual pieces so that they can split apart. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed that video. I'll see you all in the next one, where I will talk about Steam's new hardware. Stay safe, everyone, and bye-bye.